Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Creative Real Estate Academy. I'm so excited for this interview today with my good friend, Mike Wolf. And I'm really grateful that we have this opportunity to connect because typically you're traveling around the world and sometimes Wi-Fi isn't the easiest thing to get for you so that we could do this. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity despite the current state of the world and what we're facing, but it's opening up the door so that we can do some creative work. So thank you so much, Mike, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm really excited for not just everyone on my team who's also on this call today listening in, but to be able to share this with the rest of the world and share your story, because I think it's incredibly powerful and inspirational. And I'm excited that we get to have you on our channel today. So thank you.
Well, thank you for giving me something to do during this crazy isolation period that we've got going on.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
keeping me out of trouble.
Yeah, it's good for all of us. So
Exactly.
this is exciting. So, I think the best place to begin would be if you could just share your story with all of us, kind of how you got into real estate and what your journey has been so far within real estate investing.
Yeah, well, I've got a very weird story of how I got into real estate. It's much different than most people's because I never really had any desire to get into real estate, to be honest. So if we go way, way, way back to when I was in the middle of grade 12, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. And no idea, like once I got once I graduated from high school, what I was going to do. And my parents, especially my mother, had always like, you should be a doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer. Well, anybody who knows me knows I'm scared of blood. So doctor was off the table. So by default, I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll become a lawyer. On TV, it looked kind of cool. You know, they always had fancy offices. And I thought, that looks kind of cool. So went to University of Calgary, got my first degree. And with that, managed to rack up a whole lot of student loans. Back in those days, it felt like an insurmountable amount of student loans. And so decided, you know what, before I go back and get my second degree, I'm going to get these things paid off. And my friend, a good friend of mine, his mother was a manager at the phone company, which back then, I'm really dating myself, was Alberta Government Telephones. Now it's TELUS. And, it used to be government and it was union, paid quite well. So yeah, so I decided I'll work there for a couple of years, pay off my student loans, and then I'll go back at my next degree. And so while I was working at the phone company, managed to get my credit score pretty decent, bought my first home to live in. And shortly after I bought my first home, my mortgage broker calls me up and goes, Mike, if you want, I could get you another mortgage. And I was thinking, well, why do I want another mortgage? These days, I wish I would get that call. That never happens. So, but he said to me, well, you can buy another property, put a tenant in there. They'll pay down your mortgage. And, one day down the road, that mortgage will be gone and that'll be your retirement. I go, that sounds pretty good. So didn't have any idea how you evaluate a property or do due diligence. So to me, I did the obvious thing and bought a house not too far from where I lived, so I could go collect the rent. And that property barely cash flow. Like on good months, it would give me maybe $25. So I certainly wasn't retiring off it. But in any case, that was my start. And then Calgary happened to have a really nice oil boom happen a couple years after I bought both my principal residence and this revenue property. And all of a sudden, I was sitting on a whole lot of equity. And as an ex-university student with student loans still, to me, it seemed like I had hit the lottery. It felt like I won the lottery. And I did pretty much what any, guy would do in his mid-20s. One, my ego was like inflated huge time. I thought I knew everything there was to know about real estate because look what I did.
Yeah.
And so I promptly quit my job at the phone company and promptly told my parents, hey, I'm not going to law school. Screw that. I'm not going back to school. And my parents are still mad at me to this day. I don't think they even know what they do. But anyway, that was how I got my start. Now, I wish I could say it was all smooth sailing after that. Of course, when you get really, really lucky, as opposed to you learned a skill that you could duplicate, I think you know where this is heading. So I managed to lose almost all of what I gained on my next couple of deals. But as time went on, I got a little bit, after those humbling experiences, I decided that I wasn't a know-it-all. I couldn't afford to be a know-it-all anymore.
Mm.
And so basically became a learn-it-all and started to study and learn how to make a living out of this, because I already burnt the bridge at the phone company, couldn't go back there. And I couldn't admit to my parents they were right. I should have a degree to fall back on.
Mm.
So here I am 30 years later, still smiling, lots of roller coaster rides along the way. And it was a really good mistake. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah, that's exciting. I don't think I knew the depth of that story, to be honest.
I think the cool thing is I get so many people go, oh, well, of course you can do it, Mike, because they think I was born with some certain skill set, or I was actually, extremely shy, especially in high school. When I first started this, had I not had a success by mistake, I would have never done it. I would have never thought I could do it. I would have never thought I was, I would have never been brave enough. And
Yeah,
so it actually, the universe kind of paved this path where it kind of made it so obvious that's what I needed to be doing, even
yeah,
though it's something I never even thought of before. So when I get people come to me and they say, oh, I don't think I could do it, or, of course you can do it, then I have to say, hey, I'm only in this because of a really lucky mistake.
yeah,
So anybody can do this if they're willing to take the time to learn it and put in the effort. A lot of people get in thinking it's get rich quick, and they think they're just, if they get out there and start, they're going to become multimillionaires overnight. And then when people find out there's actually some work involved, a lot of people, too many people give up too early, because
yeah.
it's very, very rewarding. And if you stick with it long enough, then you can get to the point where you don't do that much work. You build the right teams.
I love that you brought up that point about not giving up, because I was just going to say that. I'm like, in your experience, it would have been very easy after that down, and living through the other side of it is that sometimes it's not that great in real estate. And I'm sure it would have been easy to give up, but like you said, you were in a position where you almost had no other option, or it sounds like you had no other option but to keep pushing through and seeing it through to the next level.
Well, I think also when I had those humbling experiences where I started to lose some money and I saw the other side of the equation, for me, it was I've always been like, I've never been somebody who's like just jumps into something without doing their homework
Yeah,
typically. And
yeah,
so I started to realize, I started to look at, well, what did I do? Why was it successful? Why wasn't I able to duplicate it? And then I realized, when I bought that first property, I looked at, that's my long-term goal. That's my retirement. When I did the second property, greed kicked in, and it was
right,
all about, well, if I quit my job, I need to make these paychecks happen. I can't wait 2 years. I got to make this happen like every 90 days, every 60 days. And then greed kicked in. I didn't really have a strategy for how to do it. I
mm,
just, let my ego get the best of me. And I just thought I'll figure it out as I go. And so when I analyzed that and started to see, I need to treat this as a long-term thing, and I need to be able to sustain myself and go the course. And I changed my mindset around how this is going to work. Then I kind of could see, hey, if I figure this out, I can make this my career. If I just rely on luck, I'm doomed, and I'm going to have to tell my parents are right. And I just didn't want to do that. I hope they don't watch this, because I don't want them to know that I almost told them at one point.
yeah, yeah, no, that's such a powerful part of this to share, because I've even in my short period that I've been involved in, I would say short, obviously compared to your experience and what you've been through, but I've seen so many people come into it with that, especially going through like real estate courses that always come through town, and they get this
Right.
excitement of the get rich quick scenario, and they come in with all this enthusiasm, but then when they see the work that goes into it, that's when you start to see people very quickly fall off of it, or get disappointed and think that it doesn't work and you can't do it. But
Right.
um I love
But
that you
you also see people though who they realize that they have a passion for it, because when the work kicks in, it's like they like doing the work.
yeah,
And that's how I was. I didn't not do the work because I didn't want to do the work. I just didn't know what the work was. I just
right,
thought, oh, I just buy a property, and then every, so often I make a couple $100,000 and I just can sit on my laurels for a bit. So I just didn't know what the work was.
right,
But some people do get in thinking, oh, I hate my job and this is easy money. They become in with that mindset that it's just easy money and it's all about the money, and it's not about creating win-wins and helping somebody on the other end. You come with the wrong mindset, this industry will not, you won't last very long.
yes, yeah, I agree with you 100%. So you experienced this, the the excitement of it, then the fall, then you went and started educating yourself. And what happened after that? Because I think it'd be useful for our audience to hear. You were at that time mostly focused in Canada, right?
Yeah, back in
Building
those
your
days,
portfolio.
everything I did was right here in Calgary. And, I got to a point where I was pretty much down to my last little chunk of cash. And so basically, I found somebody who was successful already doing the stuff I wanted to do. And I basically said, listen, if you're willing to do a joint venture with me, I will put up the cash. I want you to teach me what you do, how you're doing your due diligence, how you're analyzing deals,
Mm.
and basically made them my partner and shared the wealth with them. And it was a great win for me, great win for them. And from at least from that point on, at least I knew how to do the due diligence. And I knew what I was looking for. Whereas before that, it's like, oh, well, this home is close to home for me, so I think I'll buy this one. Not really.
Yeah.
Ironically, now I invest entirely in the United States. I invest very far from home on almost every deal I do.
Yeah.
But back in those days, that was my due diligence. Hey, how convenient is it? And so, but once I got the training, the good thing about learning something is you can't unlearn it.
Right.
Now, having said that, over the years, the strategies have changed, the things that work and the things that don't work have changed. But the one thing that hasn't changed is, I've gone from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all. You'll still see me listening in on seminars and going to events and always trying to, up my game and learn how to do things better. And well, these days I also hire a lot of people that are way smarter than me to do a lot of the stuff as well. So that's the other thing. That was a really big evolution for me is, there was a point in my life where I had lots and lots of money, but I had no life and I had no balance. I wasn't focusing on my health. I wasn't focusing on my relationships. And I remember there were lots of times I would leave home, it would be dark outside. I'd come home, it would be dark outside. And I missed an entire day, seeing my daughter. And she's almost 25 now, and I've got 2 grandkids. And with my grandkids, it's the exact opposite. I could spend as much time as my daughter's willing to put up with me for. And the money keeps coming in. But that took a lot of discipline as well. That's a whole other story. And I think we'll talk about that when we get to mindset, but giving up control, because most of us entrepreneurs and real estate investors in particular, we're control freaks.
Yes.
And I used to be. I'm a recovered control freak. And that made a big difference in my career too, is being able to see that, hey, there's people far more talented than I am. And if I let them do what they're good at, and instead of micromanaging, find the right people, let them do what they're good at, and let them produce a result, leveraging not just other people's money, but also other people's time, education, skill sets. And that's made a huge difference too. So I don't remember what your question was, but I go off on these tangents because I get
No, that's great. I think that's so good. Like everything that you're sharing with us, because all those points are extremely valid. And I love that, like you said, you shifted from I know everything and being open to learn everything, and like you said, leveraging other people's skills and saying, okay, this person's better at doing this than I am, and I'll let them take care of it, and outsourcing, right? Which is
well,
like,
what I realized is, back in the old days, I thought everything that I did, I thought I was the best at. And I realized I'm like the worst at, not the worst, but there's nothing that I'm the best at. And so I've delegated almost everything now because there's always somebody better than me.
yeah.
And so I'll take credit for being a really good delegator. All the other stuff, there's way smarter people than me. And so that's what makes my team work. And I'm grateful that I discovered that, because I know so many people that this career, they get passionate about it and they still love it, but it's all encompassing. It takes up their entire life and they've got nothing beyond that. And so I think it's important to also have fulfillment and happiness and outside of just identifying yourself with your career. So
100%. And I'm excited for when we jump into that topic, because I think that's another beautiful and extremely powerful part of your journey and your story. Because so many people do just go into it with that focus of, the making the money and putting all your energy and all your time and everything into this, which it is very exciting at first, like you said, because I find myself in that position right now where I love what I do and I could do it all the time because it's so exciting. But you do have to have that awareness of putting the systems and teams in place so you can outsource and also enjoy the benefits of building this business, right? So absolutely. I love that. I love also that you went and searched out somebody that you could joint venture with. How did that come about? Were you attending events, or how did you find that person?
Yeah, well, I started to network a little bit, and before that, I'd never gone to anything to do with real estate in my life. I'd never read a book.
Wow.
That was pre-rich dad, poor dad. That's how old I am. So, but it was way back. But I started to seek out places where investors hung out, and just you know found somebody who was successful and made it. So it was like a no-brainer. If
Yeah.
I would have said, "Hey, would you mentor me?" They could have easily said no. If I said, "Hey, let's do a joint venture. I'm going to put up the cash. Let's split a paycheck. Show me what you're doing." That's
Oh
uh,
yeah.
much more difficult to say no to, first of all, and also creates a pretty strong friendship.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's how. If I hadn't have done that, I am pretty sure right now I might be talking about legal advice on this Zoom call. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I would actually make a really bad lawyer. I'm very non-confrontational, and I like everybody just get along. That would have been a really bad career choice for me. So, but I just think sometimes the universe just puts you on the right
Yes.
path if you're open to it.
Yes.
And once again, that comes up, comes down. Back in those days, I didn't see it as giving up control. Now I look back on it as, hey, I just kind of let things guide me and steer me, as opposed to me trying to force something that wouldn't have been right for me. So, um,
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I love that, listening to those messages that come, that sometimes we're like in this focus and in other things, and it keeps coming up and we're not paying attention to it, but I love your what you're talking about, being divinely guided, or the universe showing us where we need to be, based on
absolutely.
our skills, and where we can serve, I think, in the highest level. So from Calgary, can you just share with us a little bit about how you got to where you're at right now, your current focus?
Yeah. So if we backtrack, probably, I'm just going to say 15 years ago now, a good friend of mine moved from Calgary to Las Vegas. And uh, so when he moved there, I thought, hey, I got a friend in Vegas. So I decided, every month or two, I'll go visit him, and I got a free place to stay. And I have a little bit of a different addiction than maybe some people that go to Vegas. I'm not really much of a gambler. But especially back in those days, like, I could not drive past an open house sign and not go look at the property. I just could not do that. These days, I'm not quite as motivated to do that. But back in the old days, but what I was noticing back then is, I'd go 1 month and I go look at some homes, and the price would be here, and I go back a month later and they'd be here, and they kept going up. And I'm going, what is going on? And back in those days, especially, a lot of people are moving from California to Las Vegas to lower their cost of living.
Mm.
And I thought, man, this is like too good to be true. It's like, so I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to start buying properties in Las Vegas. And that was the start of my US career. Now, back in those days, there were not a lot of Canadians doing
Yeah.
that. I didn't know of even one. And I didn't know how to deal with the taxes and moving my money back and forth. And there are a lot of reasons why I could have said, I'm not going to do this, or, hey, let me figure this out and then I'll jump in. But I realized, hey, this isn't going to last forever. So I just jumped in full speed ahead and started buying properties, fixing them, and then selling them to Californians mostly, and figuring out all that other stuff, as time went on. As I, was realizing, hey, I'm paying way too much in tax. How do I not do that? And I
Yeah.
got professionals on my team that specialize in that. So once again, the universe always seems to put me on these really interesting paths that, back then, all my friends thought I was nuts. Because, what? You're investing in the US? Are you crazy? Back then, Las Vegas was more expensive than Calgary. The dollar was really crappy, kind of like it is now again.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of reasons why people were saying I shouldn't do it. Yet I just knew, both intuitively and from doing due diligence, it was going to make a lot of sense.
Mm.
So I did that. And then the big recession kicked in 2007. And all of a sudden, well, not only did my net worth go down tremendously, because all these properties that I owned went down in value, but the city of Las Vegas, like the whole United States for that matter, became
Mm-hmm.
a country of renters. So that, American dream of everybody having that white picket fence and their beautiful home, that totally got shattered during those days. And so a whole lot of people were going from homeowners to renters. And that market actually dropped from its peak to its lowest point, dropped 80%. So
Oh
200,000 a
my
home now
God.
worth, 40 or 50 grand. That's how badly
Wow.
it was beaten up. So when I hear people talking about what's going on now, it's like, we're going to survive.
We'll
But
be okay.
we're going to
Yeah.
be okay. But anyway, so my net worth went down a lot. My cash flow actually went up because I could be more selective on who I wanted as renters.
Wow.
I could put I'd have better tenants in place. I raised my rents in a lot of cases, and the price of everything went down. If I wanted to buy a new car, everything was on sale. Financing was 0%.
Wow.
I was hanging out in Vegas quite a bit, and I get stuff in the mail like Cirque du Soleil shows half price, and fancy restaurants that would never put anything on sale, giving out coupons just to stay open. And so I had so that's when I learned the cash flow, not cash, but cash flow is king.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of cash flow, and that money was going a lot further, and it was buying me a lot more properties. More importantly than all that, though, is I started to get calls from all my friends who used to make fun of me for investing. And of course, as you know, in Canada, we were fairly insulated. We didn't get hit nearly as bad as the US did. And all of a sudden, I got calls from people saying, hey, I know we used to make fun of you, but how do we invest in the US? How do we do it? And, so that led me on a journey where I got invited to speak for some pretty prestigious American companies that were putting on seminars. They couldn't get people to show up in the States. Nobody wanted to hear about real estate. They were done with it. And they were touring across Canada, and I got asked to speak, across the country for a very well-known, I won't mention their name, but a very well-known real estate brand. And I had never spoken on a stage before in my life. And all of a sudden I'm speaking in front of hundreds of people. And once again, it would have been really easy for me to say no, but the universe always seems to presents it to me in such a way that I'd be really stupid to say no.
Yeah.
And so in this case, it was somebody who's one of my heroes that I look up to. So I'm speaking on these stages all across Canada, and I wasn't allowed to sell anything, nor did I have anything to sell in those days. But then I actually I'd fly in for the day, speak for 45, 60, 90 minutes, whatever. Then I'd fly home. And the one time I decided to, sit down the whole weekend. And, when I did that, I realized a lot of stuff they were teaching didn't really sit very well with me. I thought some of their strategies were very out of date. Some of them were bordering on maybe unethical, in my opinion. Some of the stuff they were teaching, I was thinking, I remember we used to do that back like in the early 90s. I think that's like mortgage fraud now. So anyway, I decided I didn't really want to be affiliated with them. And then I started to, create some of my own trainings and actually take people to for instance, the auctions in Las Vegas. Back in those days, I was buying tons of properties at these auctions. And I was teaching other people, mostly Canadians, how to invest in U.S. real estate at these auctions. And so that led me to open up a whole new path because I stepped out of my comfort zone. And, at that point, I didn't need the money. I didn't really want to be in the spotlight because I'm not, I'm still kind of shy to this day. I've come out of my shell quite a bit, for being in this industry a long time and speaking on stages. But that's not really, I don't think I was born to be the guy on a stage. But yeah, it led to me doing that. It also led to me, helping other Canadians to invest in U.S. real estate by creating turnkey properties where I do all the work for them. Because I realize not everybody wants to, like we said earlier, when they find out there's work involved, they don't always want to do it.
That's right.
And a lot of people come to me and they're doctors and lawyers and engineers, and they don't necessarily want to stop practicing medicine. That's still their passion. And I think those people should be invested in real estate and get the benefits from it without having to do it. So it's just a long way of saying a lot of doors opened for me when I got out of my comfort zone. And, my career would look a lot different had I not taken those steps. And even, not that many years ago, I was only buying real estate for myself. And then next thing I'm speaking on stages. And then I'm, after I quit, people started to contact me and say, hey, how do we work with you? And then I started to help other people, mostly my friends. And I started to help my friends' friends. And then I started to get asked a lot of the same questions over and over and over again. So I made a YouTube channel. I put my most frequently asked questions. And I started to get people literally all over the planet. So I guess the message I'm trying to give everybody watching is that, step out of your comfort zone, take that next step, go to the next level. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can't even imagine that's waiting for you. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people when they interview me, they thought, back in the old days, I had this master plan. I was going to build this empire. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It started off extremely humbly and by fluke. and it's evolved like little by little into much bigger thing. But it wasn't because I'm any smarter than anybody here. I'm probably lazier than almost everybody here now, and but I always take the steps. And once I got out of my comfort zone with one thing, then when there's something that I found to be a big leap, I look back on, oh, I remember I used to be terrified to speak on stage. Now I love it. And that would I could convince myself, inspire myself to go and do things I didn't really want to do. And so I just want to encourage and inspire everybody to go and, push yourself to do things that you don't necessarily feel comfortable doing, and you will be rewarded like you would not believe. So
That's beautiful.
I know you're doing that. So you're seeing the rewards.
Yes.
Because I know how hard you've worked, and people don't always see that.
Yeah.
They're going to say, oh, of course you can do it, but they don't see all the hard work that you did behind the scenes to get where you're at. So I want to honor you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate that. And it's true. It's a lot of work, like you said, that maybe in the front lines is not noticeable, and sacrifice and failures and just getting back up and continue to move forward. And I think this is a great way to go into the mindset part of this, because I know you and I have had really great conversations about mindset. And one of the things that I personally feel doesn't get enough attention in the realm of real estate, because a lot of people just see the financial benefits of it,
right,
but don't realize that in order to be successful, and I know you mentioned this earlier, mindset needs to be one of your top priorities. So I think if you don't mind sharing with us how that has been a huge influence for you in your journey, and I would say even potentially saved your life.
Yeah, well, I'd say that mindset is probably the single biggest thing, and how you perceive things, how you see the planet. And right now, obviously, there's a lot of people that are down, and we're in the middle of this pandemic, and it's very easy to use that as an excuse just to sit around and watch Netflix all day and not do anything and just mope around. And I think we need to practice great mindset when we're in a pandemic, and also when we're on top of the world. And a lot of people say, well, what do I have to be happy about? And it's like, I can tell you one of the things that I've done, since I've built teams, I've got a lot of my time back, is I've done a lot of volunteering, for example. And so I know Carol's listening in, and we actually we actually went to New Zealand and Vanuatu on a trip together, and a number of entrepreneurs got together and raised money and brought a bunch of water filters. They got hit by a cyclone and they had no clean drinking water. We went and brought them these water filters, showed them how to use it. And when you do something like that and you come home after, you never see water the same way. Like this, when you turn the tap and magically clean water comes out. I mean, we have so much to be grateful for. And Canadians, anybody who's watching this, who has the luxury of having a computer and Zoom and the internet.
Yes.
Our bad day is somebody on the other side of the planet. This would be their dream. If they hit the lottery, they would have our bad day. Right. And so you've got to practice gratitude every single day. And so for myself, I know you were kind of alluding to this, back in the old days when I used to be a workaholic, I used to love what I did. It never really bothered me, except I didn't have my pulse on anything else going around. My relationships were suffering. My health was definitely suffering. I used to get gout all the time. And for those who don't know what it is, it's GOUT, look it up. I could go on forever. It's very, very painful. And it's caused by, in my case, eating too much meat. And I would always be going and grabbing fast food. I didn't have time to eat properly, grab a salad. I'd always be going for, a burger. And anyway, to make a long story short, 6 years ago, I was in a wheelchair and literally could not walk. My left foot was double the size of my right foot. And I think that we are given lessons by the universe, and quite often they start off very subtle and they get bigger and bigger. And so I think this pandemic may be something that maybe should have been on our radar a long time ago, not necessarily the pandemic itself, but just the things I think now that a lot of people are in solitude and confinement, I think some people are starting to see what's important. Mm-hmm. And it's not, we're not able to go to our jobs and make money. We're not able to go and hang out with our friends and go partying or whatever. And I'm not criticizing those things are absolutely, everybody needs a social life too. But I think that we need to just take time every day to practice gratitude for the fact that we woke up we even woke up in the morning and we're healthy and we have our freedom. So a lot of people, now that we're losing our freedom, they're seeing, hey, this is, how we had it so good and yet we didn't take advantage of it. So I think maybe this could be a lesson for a lot of us. And for me, as you know, I travel full time, and a lot of my friends are worried about me because here I am confined, and my wings are clipped, at least temporarily, and I'm enjoying every minute of it, because instead of saying, oh, I can't travel and I'm not allowed to do this, I'm saying, hey, I'm catching up on my relaxation that I'm getting way more sleep than I normally would. I'm focusing on how I can move my business in the right direction once we come out of this, how I can help more people that are going to be struggling. And that's the beauty of real estate investing. I don't really even like the term real estate investor. I like the term problem solver, because behind every home that goes for sale, there's always a story behind it. Nobody randomly just puts their home on the market. There's always a story. And usually if we can help people, right now there's going to be a big financial crisis coming out of all this, most likely. And but there's people like you and I that are in a position to help these people and create a win, help people get back on their feet, and at the same time get paid for it. And so there's a lot of great things that I think are going to come out of this. And a lot of people don't see that. So that's number one. You got to practice gratitude every single day. Be grateful for the things that we have and the things that you can lose in a heartbeat, as we just have. So that's number one. I think the other thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is control. Quit trying to control things you have no control over. So if you're watching the news all day, take a news diet. That is going to put you in bad. Nothing good comes from watching the news. It's not going to put you in good spirits. I guarantee you, your friends are going to tell you when it's safe to go outside. It's not going to. What? I've been inside for 10 years. I didn't know I could go out. That's not going to happen. You're going to get enough news secondhand that you don't have to follow it all day.
Yeah.
And I actually experienced this firsthand, because I haven't watched news or TV for that matter. I don't really watch a lot of TV for years and years and years. And before I came back to Canada, I was traveling full time, and I had to watch the news because I literally had to see, well, which borders are open, what's my timing, who's still flying, can I go on a cruise ship, can I not? There's lots of things that I needed to follow the news for. And I could feel my mood, like my mood, the vibration, the frequency that I normally play at, I was starting to feel down. And so I know the people watching the news every day, I can't even imagine what that does to you. So stop controlling the things that you don't have control over. Take a news diet, and then start focusing on the things that you do have control over. You have control over how you're going to come out of this pandemic. Maybe you got laid off from your job. Instead of depending on getting hired back, maybe everybody's an expert at something. Maybe you could figure out how to share that knowledge with more people. Maybe now's a great time to, if you're kind of on the fence about becoming a real estate investor, now's the time. You got time. Start reading, start educating yourself, be prepared for when you can be unleashed to go help this planet and all these people that are going to be suffering, and create win-wins. So those are things you have control over. So get rid of all that stuff that you have no control over. Who's in the office? If you like them, if you don't like them, too bad. You're not going to change that. If you're not in the economy, you're going to have very low control over the world economy. You have a lot of control over your own economy. And so that'll be my second thing, is where you focus your control or lack thereof. I'd say just be calm. We've been through 9/11. We've been through, from now on, every election, there's going to be some sort of pandemic. Just get used to it. There's a lot of politics. I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories, but there's a lot of politics that go on when this stuff happens. I think personally, this is blown way out of proportion by the media, and the media is actually, unfortunately, going to create this next wave of panic with the financial crisis that's impending. And but I'd say another thing that's really important is times like this, people that are freaking out and they go into scarcity mode. That's the worst thing you can do. And I find people are being very mean to other people, very judgmental. I say do the opposite. Go out there and be kind. Do something good for somebody else who's maybe suffering more than you are. help them get groceries while you're out shopping instead of everybody having to go to the grocery store. Maybe buy for a few other people and they'll do the same for you, or shovel their walk or mow their lawn when we get to that, if we get to that time of year. Or, if you're buying coffee, get one for the person behind you, whatever it is. Just do something, a small act of kindness for somebody every day, because not only will it make them happier, it's going to make you happier too. And that's one of the other things I love to share with people is we had this interview 20 years ago. It would be all about money, how much money I'm making, and what strategies give me this much cash in the bank. And I've changed my currency over the years. I used to talk a lot about money. Now I love to talk about happiness and joy and fulfillment. And to me, fulfillment, as I mentioned, I do a lot of volunteer work.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it because I like to help other people, but it's also for selfish reasons, because it makes me feel 100 times better than having a new car, or that whatever that thing is that's going to light you up for a week or two, and then it's going to be boring.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have to get that next thing. So be kind to other people during these tough times. And instead of thinking scarcity mode, man, there's going to be so much abundance coming down the pipeline. When we get out of this, there's going to be so many opportunities. And just prepare yourself for it. Start educating yourself, and instead of thinking about, I hope they hire me back, do something to make yourself more valuable in the marketplace. And instead of relying on somebody else to give you a paycheck, rely on your own skills, your own abilities. I know not everybody finds it easy to be entrepreneurial, but team up with, maybe find somebody else who is entrepreneurial, maybe add value to them and do a joint venture with them where you're the person in the background. Because I have people on my team, I give them a to-do list that would take me like a year to do. They call me up 2 hours later and say, well, what's next? So there's people that are very, very organized. I'm not one of them. So add value to somebody else and make a difference by combining your skill sets with somebody else. So those are some of my main points. And I think if people practice some of those, they're going to weather the storm a lot better and maybe come out of it extremely optimistic and ready to just, like I said, my wings are clipped, but you let me fly again, and things are going to get crazy. So that's coming up. So watch out.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mike. I really love those 3 key points that you mentioned, and especially, gratitude. I think that, like you said, just looking at everything with that perspective, with the lens of being grateful, just from the minute you wake up and everything, having water come through the shower automatically, and just I think it's so beautiful. And I love how through your travel, I'm sure it gives you more and more of that perspective of going to those countries where they don't have things like, warm running water or running water, and you have to go get buckets of water to shower or whatever it is. And so I think that is one of the most valuable points of this whole conversation, is just always looking at everything from that lens of being grateful. And like you said, we have this opportunity through the avenue of real estate to really help so many people, and to be in a position right now to prepare for being on that side of it, of how we can create win-wins and be a source of relief for people, and gratitude on their end that we're there to help them. So
speaking of
awesome.
gratitude, how lucky are we that we have this technology that
right?
we can communicate while we're being locked down.
Oh, yeah.
I know that's worse in a lot of other places than here, but
Yes.
we're able to communicate with people all over the world, and people that are stuck at home still have access to learning and further their education. Now, a lot of people say, I don't have time. Well, now you've got time.
Yes.
So be grateful that the universe gave you this time where you can go and become the new version of yourself, be the 2.0 version, and upgrade your mindset. And like I said, not just weather, but thrive and go and just kick butt when with this new opportunity that's coming down the pipeline.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mike. You're just, you get me all fired up, and I'm sure you're like got everybody on it. Yeah. I love that. Right? You got our whole team excited, and everybody that gets to watch this and listen to this, I'm sure they'll be inspired and motivated to take those next steps. So thank you again for taking the time to share your journey and your these tools and resources that you've been using to get yourself to that next level and stay on that high energy state. I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate you, and I love all the stuff that you're doing. So keep up the awesomeness.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful and look forward to chatting with you soon. And yeah, I'm excited for when you get to go out and travel again. And in the meantime, enjoy your time to just take it in and reconnect, like you said. And so thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks again.
Thank you.